Hey everyone, what's going on? I wanted to come on here and talk about some feet stuff. It's been a little while. I really haven't been posting much. Just been kind of like not in that space. I've been very inspired in life and not necessarily inspired to capture. I have to like live my life for a while to have enough to share. If I'm always in this cycle of trying to share more and more and more, I actually don't think you can grow if you're constantly sharing because you're just always trying to share and figure out what the next thing is. But if you step away for a bit, you live your life, new things come up, new inspiration, new stories, and all this stuff. So, I wanted to come on here and talk about feet. One of the reasons is I recently got asked to come fly out to LA and be on this show. I think it's called I Live the Day With. It's Anthony Padilla. Anyway, he interviews different people about all kinds of things. Like he did a whole thing on dissociative identity disorder, people with Tourette's, and hostage victims, and now he's doing barefoot people. So there's a few of us going out, and yeah, I'm still very barefoot all the time. Let's see if I can give you a shot. Look at those feet. You want to see them? Let's assume that maybe you want to see the bottom. People are always like, let me see the bottom of your feet. See it? Let's see here. So these are full spring, summer, and fall. Through the winter, barefoot. Winter's coming. Winter is coming upon us. Very excited. It's just such a beautiful time. I mean, if you haven't seen this view yet, well, it's every morning right there. Actually, my partner and I host private retreats here too. So if you're interested, check out the link below. Check out the link below. We just have a place where people come stay with us. We cook all the meals. We go for hikes. We talk about life. We do ceremonies and just bring people into this space of being, aliveness. And so that's really where I want to go into the foot thing. There's a whole niche of being barefoot now, and especially in the last couple of years of doing this stuff, people start following you. It's like Barefoot Guy 300 and the Barefoot Mom and all this stuff, and it's cool to see this revolution. There's a whole niche in being barefoot, but one of the reasons I tend to get not inspired to create barefoot content is because to me life isn't about being barefoot. Barefoot is one piece of this bigger puzzle, and I don't want to just make it about being barefoot. And I see how easy it is for me just to make everything about feet. But to me, feet represent something so much more simple, something so much, more everyone, whether you decide to be barefoot or not. Because again, it's really about when you take off the shoe, it's kind of like taking off the false self, right? You take off this shoe and it's like this prison that's on your foot, and it's something you think that you need. It's this thing that's there, and there's all different varieties of it, and you try this one, and you try that one, and you wear this one this day, but there's all a thing that you think that you need, right? And then one day you take it off and you do things that you never thought you could do. And I'm speaking about myself, hiking up these mountains and hiking barefoot on the side of a mountain with no trail where there's cactus and all kinds of things everywhere. And you realize, whoa, this whole time I thought I needed to wear a shoe for my own protection and safety. But it turns out my feet are actually the greatest shoe in the world. And when I'm walking by people and they're like, whoa, you're barefoot, that's crazy. And I always say, not always, but often, until I find a shoe that's better than my foot, I'm going to continue to be barefoot. And I say it, half jokingly, but in a way it's true. I mean, the foot is the perfect shoe. It moves around, it can grip. All your shoe can do is just be solid. And yes, I'm not saying there aren't situations where wearing a shoe might make sense. For a lot of people in the snow. I mostly go barefoot in the snow, but you got to be careful. Sometimes I'll wear a basic sandal or something, but there's situations where the right tool for the right job, sure. But overall, I've found 99.9% of the time, I want to be barefoot. It's very rare that I ever put anything on. Extremely hot, extremely cold surfaces, I've pretty much managed to be okay with them. But, everyone's different, and you got to be careful, and you got to awaken the foot slowly. You don't just jump into it and say, I'm going to go 10 miles barefoot in the mountains. It's like, no. Start with a few minutes, see how you feel. But the shoe and taking it off is a perfect metaphor to me for life, right? When I realized that my feet were amazing and I started awakening them, it took time. I was very vulnerable. I was this little seedling in my foot, this little seedling coming out saying, hey, I'm here. But the more it grew and grew and grew, it became this beautiful giant flower. And it took me a while to realize this, but of course I was born barefoot, and I've pretty much been barefoot my whole life, even though the last 3 years have been more extreme. When I really think back, I've never liked shoes, and whenever I had a chance to take my shoes off and thought that I could, I would. It's just that I didn't know there was this whole movement of being barefoot, and I didn't know that I could condition my foot to a level of being able to run a marathon barefoot in the mountains. So feet are amazing, but everyone's different. Everyone's unique, and I'm not here to tell you anything. I think I see a lot of influencers who are like, be barefoot, it's way better, shoes suck. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. I mean, I feel the same way. However, this journey, no one's the same. Just like I would just sit here blindly give out medical advice. I know it works for me. I've done a lot of extreme different things, and my health I feel really good about. Like, I feel the healthiest I've ever been. I'm pushing 38 years old, folks, and I feel great. I remember being young and hearing 40 and being so nervous about it. And now I can't wait to be 40. I can't wait to be 65 because I'm going to just be freaking awesome. So I'm excited about all this stuff, but I wouldn't tell people to live the life that I'm living because everyone's unique in that way. I think, in a way, we're all connected and there are certain things that are similar. But I think when I first started going barefoot, I was just trying to tell it and preach, just like everything else. It's like when I first started doing Buddhism back in the day. It's like preach, but it's not for everybody. And if you come to these conclusions and something I say resonates with you, well, that's great. But it doesn't mean that it's the only way, right? Everybody has to figure that out for themselves. So, if you're interested in the barefoot thing and you're such, you're such at a different place right now and you're recognizing that it makes sense, also recognize that it's probably not really about your feet. It's probably about everything, because the shoe is that false prison, but so is the self, right? This false self, the self that doubts, the self that hates, the self that, is insecure, and the self that has all this shame. That's not you either. And when you take off the shoe of the self, if that makes sense, you take off the false laser of yourself, well, then things start to make more sense. And it's not easy, and it can be painful. And there's times when, it's scary and depressing. Just like with my feet, there are times when my feet are hurt and I'm not sure what to do and all these things. But I keep going back and remembering and trusting, taking things slow, and it just gets better and better and better. I hope that helps. As always, I do have a free book about living barefoot. Click the link below, check it out.